Of course, our congregational life would not be possible without the financial support of our members. We know many congregations struggle with how to encourage generous giving.
Here are UU ministers Burton, Carley, and Victoria Safford offering their reflections on what encourages the spiritual discipline of generosity.
We are a generous people, but we have developed habits and traditions that tend to operate from a mindset of scarcity rather than abundance. For example, when the term fair share was first coined, I imagine it was intended to be a barometer for generosity, yet it communicates something very different today. People speak of fair share as being equivalent to dues. And who wants to pay high dues? Or more dues than someone else? This leads us astray in two ways. Number one, energy is depleted on developing strategies and formulas intended to encourage congregations in an equitable way to be generous, but curiously ends up being a measuring stick for whether a congregation is doing more than their neighbor. It also sets up a mindset of obligation and duty that robs generosity of its fullest meaning and inevitably creates a system of judgment based on compliance. Secondly, it fosters a consumer climate of dues for services. And the question that I hear all the time, I bet you've even asked it, what has the UUA done for me recently? Rather than an environment of being stewards, living a life of service out of our communal religious values. And this is my first silly idea I present to you, that this presentation and this workshop is not really about money. It is about our relationships, about being in right relationship and how that somehow gets lost in translation. If you think about it, money is mostly a relational tool. What is the true value of money? The true value of money is that it is a means and not an end. And people are generally not inspired to give to budgets whose end is maintenance. And there's a significant difference between thinking about giving in terms of being generous in funding a budget and thinking about a life of generosity, which is a means to enhance the spiritual development of a person and the life of a people of faith bound together freely in religious covenant. People no longer give so much to an institution, but how that institution enables them and allows them to live out their deepest values, their faith. And so giving is more about the giver than the institution. The need of the giver to find joy through participation, to live a life that makes a difference, to be engaged with a vision and a mission and a ministry. There is a great difference between talking about budget needs and talking about the spiritual needs of the giver. There's a difference between a balance sheet and a vision. There's a difference between raising money for the church or the association of congregations and raising money for a shared mission and ministry. The institution, like money itself, is the conduit through which people are in relationship with things that matter most. Giving is related to the extent that the local congregation or the association provides the opportunity for people to make that connection between faith and living. Right relationship is about that connection. And money is a way, one way of being connected. And so the conversation about money is not about how much money it takes to fund a budget. That's the wrong way to have the conversation. But about what the local congregation or the larger association of congregations could do or should do. The basic conversation is about vision, about mission, about ministry. It's a question about what your congregation is called to do. To this end, generosity is not about statistics. It is not about calculations or financial projections. It is about faith and what that faith requires of us. To this end, the annual program fund and financial leadership is not about increasing the number at the bottom line, but about growing souls. And so this conversation is a framing conversation, an invitation for you to reimagine what it means for us to be a religious people in covenantal relationship. I have many other things to say about covenant, but what I would like for you to think about is how, in your own congregation, how that covenant is expressed, whether explicit or implicit, and what it means for a person to be a member of your congregation. How do you define the mission or purpose of your congregation? Does your budget actually reflect your covenant and mission among yourselves? And I want to emphasize in closing that it is only through ordering our relationships rightly that we will be able to fully express our purpose and power in the world. Only when we can define from the bottom up our collective mission or purpose as a religious people, bound together freely in our covenants, can we truly express our power. Only then can we form our vision of what our mission requires of us. Only then can we practice our ministry. Only then may we enter into those deeply held common values and a broader sense of transcendent purpose to do together what we cannot do alone. And my thought is that there will be generous people eager to give themselves and their resources to our mission and vision and ministry so defined. And it is my hope that you will be able to articulate the religious meaning of giving in your own life for your congregations, to model that, to begin a conversation of what it means to be in right relationship with one another, why you are joined together in covenant, what is your purpose together, and how all of this is connected to the generosity of funding these things. Thank you.
You know, we are all dying here, each in our quiet, mysterious own way. And as Burton put it so well just now, none of us owns a single thing, not even our own lives, really. And the question for us always is, will we go and do we go in brilliance, in abundance, in gladness, as befits a human person? And like Maggie's friend, we are all susceptible to this longing to have everything squared away, no balance owed, which is an admirable impulse, especially in treasurers and finance chairs and pledge drive leaders and capital campaign people like all of you, an admirable trait. But sometimes we are also susceptible, all of us, with the best of intentions, to this same tight, bitter foreclosure of possibility. I can't have anything, I can't love anything, I can't finish, which is to say anything at all. That is the furious whisper of a dying person, and that person is us. Not in every moment, but too often we say in our lives and in our congregations, I'm afraid, I don't deserve it, I can't afford it, it wasn't meant to be, we've never done it like that, it's too late, it's too much, we have no choice, I'm scared, I don't have enough information, and we never will. There are so many things that Unitarian Universalists say they don't believe in, and among them, sadly, and too often, are the power of our own dreaming and the strength of our actual resources. And I think of Alice Walker here, who says, we must learn to love what is plentiful as much as in what is scarce. Some say it is a throwback to our old Puritan beginnings. It's a strange case of mutant prudence run amok. And we will look at a carefully prepared, practical, lean, visionary, responsible operating budget and immediately say, no, no, no. This is not for us. This will never happen. This is unaffordable, unruly, unseemly. This is a 5 or 10 or 15 or whatever it is % over last year. The people will never do it. And if they will, we shouldn't ask them to do it. But when you are talking about fair and honorable compensation and religious education for our children, and especially for our youth and young adults who are the immediate future of this graying movement. And when we're talking about leaky roofs and lights and heat and the life of the Spirit, or the urgency of a liberal religious voice in a growing theocracy, and prophetic and pluralistic religious voice in the wilderness of a dangerous time, then do without and wear it out won't fly. Budgets in our churches are self-fulfilling prophecies every year. And I'm interested in the prophetic imagination. I am interested in this beautiful, abundant land that lies between what is and what ought to be, which is what will be. I asked some members of the church I serve why they do the work they do. One said, "I don't know if I have anything to contribute. I started out in finance by recording the pledge payments and other donations many years ago in longhand in a composition book, 1 page for each member. I felt I was doing something worthwhile, and that has been my motivation all along, even when I switched over to a computerized system. Caring for others, doing what's within and beyond my ability, reaching out, holding it close, and giving. It's been very satisfying. Why finance? It challenged my abilities, and mostly because love is the spirit of our church." Someone else said about running the pledge drive, "We love the entities that ask the most of us. We love the parent who expected greatness, the sickly child who required us to devote ourselves completely to their care, the teacher who expected the world of us, the RE teacher who charged you to live up to your ideals once in a while. We appreciate the demanding coach, the discriminating customer, and we love the church that calls us to our best selves. We're lukewarm about the lukewarm church." And from a past president, after a wildly ambitious capital campaign which he survived, "Giving and receiving is the breath of life. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. It's how I stay alive." And then finally, from one person, a finance chair retired, "My theology of money is simple. You bless it by the use you put it to." The question we want to put to you, one of a couple of them as we have time, is about covenant, the way Burton described it. By what covenant would you say your people are bound, each to each, in your congregation? Because that's the starting place of speaking about money and finances and how it runs. What are they committed to? How are they committed to each other and to what they call the sacred? What promise, this is another way to think about it, did you make in joining your congregation? What did you think you were committing to? And what do you really hope that the other members of your congregation have promised to you?